after more technology issues up here in the commentary box, then hopefully that's the last delay for a little while. Had one contact warning so far, Andrew Douglas, but at the front, Harry Reynolds leads Finn Smith. 1.72 seconds the advantage the number 7 has. Just me, or has it got a little bit darker around the circuit? Those blue skies seem mostly swamped by clouds now. Ollie Stevens is in third with 4th place Harry Linden, Lucas Hayden 5th, 6th Jamie von Moxar with Arthur Thacker, Callum Voisin, Toby Wells and James Mintoft as the rest of the drivers in the top 10. Callum Voisin, of course, pretty much with the championship under his belt. Billy Edgecombe has just picked up himself a contact warning, black and white flag. Acts somewhat like a yellow card in football, less so like a yellow card in rugby. No sin binning involved, but do usually get a couple more chances before the black flag is brandished and that driver is disqualified from the race. That to cause a pretty nasty collision in order for it to be given as an instant black, that's for sure. Across the line though, Reynolds and Smith. Smith actually did catch up by 0.43 of a second on that previous lap. In that last lap of 46.47 isn't particularly competitive from Harry Reynolds, but Finn Smith and Harry Linden both managed quick lap times, 36.04 and a 36.01 set by Harry Linden. Would potentially lead to a fairly interesting affair if they weren't so far apart. Cross the line once again, starting lap 9 now. The front runners. Just over 2.5 minutes still left to race. Decent amount of time left, but not with the margins that we're seeing with the top few. So nearly a very competitive session, certainly with Linden and Smith. They were 2 seconds apart. But Reynolds and Smith, potentially. Reynolds in the lead, has led from so early on here, the number 7. But potentially with Finn Smith in second place, who was just held up ever so slightly by a back marker there. He showed his disapproval there with a hand in the air, which very much could benefit Harry Reynolds, but still with over 2 minutes, it's not totally out of the question that Finn Smith could be offering some real pressure towards Harry Reynolds come the closing stages of this race, the last couple of laps or so. Finn Smith really will have to find some impressive lap times. He lost half a second as a result of that slight altercation with the back marker on that previous lap. Harry Linden in third and fourth. Ollie Stevens is the number 27. None of these drivers, though, are within 2 seconds of each other, apart from Harry Linden on Finn Smith, who seems to be progressively closing that gap impressively. So Harry Linden in the number 31, who's really not too far behind Smith now whatsoever, out of the top end come the top 3, and actually it is beginning to look like a battle that could turn into something pretty watchable. Callum Voisin in 6th place, by the way. He will be seeking pole position. I'm not sure how things look for points accumulated over the course of this day so far. Smith was the winner, Finn Smith in Heat 2, Linden in second. They're currently in second and third behind Harry Reynolds, who I don't think has won today, so could see 3 different winners. As Finn Smith looks to the inside at Billy's, dives up the inside, later on the brakes, and as easy as that manages to get past the race leader, but Reynolds manages to reclaim it onto the Sturmey straight, and Harry Reynolds has the lead once again. But switching it up and on the hairpin now, making a manoeuvre and trying to follow through is Harry Linden. 3-way battle for the lead has suddenly sparked into life and trying to go up the inside there, but had to kill the speed quickly. Did Harry Linden, and has to settle for third and a little bit of a gap as well. But Harry Reynolds in second place now. Finn Smith managing to complete an impressive manoeuvre at the hairpin. Didn't give up after a slightly disappointing effort at Billy's. Now manages to find himself in the lead of the race. Finn Smith and seeking 2 wins from 2. Harry Linden in 3rd place, very much seeking a potential position change as well. Who's this at the front now? I think it's a back marker of Jacob Martin. Could that potentially throw a spanner in the works? Martin very capably gets out of the way of the top 2, but look at the top 3 here. Suddenly so close together. Smith, Linden in 2nd now, and Harry Reynolds in 3rd. I don't know how Linden got into 2nd place. Didn't see when that manoeuvre took place, but this is the last lap of this heat. And time to go up the inside on the final lap. Linden very close between the top 2. Finn Smith has to stick on the outside. Linden gets into the lead of the race, and Harry Reynolds all over the rear bumper of Finn Smith as well. Can Linden take victory here as he did in Heat 1? Out to the top end they come. It's going to be Linden ahead of Finn Smith and Harry Reynolds in 2nd and 3rd. Across the line they go, taking the checkered flag. Harry Linden beating Finn Smith to the line by just 0.25 of a second. And then another quarter of a second behind Harry Reynolds. After 15 laps though, a brilliant last couple of laps for the top 3 of the Minimax. Ollie Stevens finishing in a fairly lonely 4th place. Callum Voisin 5th, 6th Lucas Hayden, Toby Wells 7th, 8th Arthur Thacker with James Mintoft in 9th, and 10th Alfie Davies. Did pick up a contact warning towards the end there, the E-Plate Championship leader, but I can't imagine he'll care too much about that, as Harry Linden beats Finn Smith and Harry Reynolds to the line under remarkable circumstances. The Junior Max race now, race number 15, and once again their last heat of the day. Jack Meakin and Machi Hamera will start on the front row. Hamera, who often is towards the front runners and competed, of course, in the British Kart Championships as well earlier this year when they visited Clay, but hasn't been quite at the races so far, Machi Hamera. Not sure he's got the kart set up exactly as he would have liked. Very capable young driver though, Machi Hamera, and thoroughly enjoyed having him in the commentary box up here as well for his much more technical driver's insight, which he provided on that day a few months ago. He starts on the front row now alongside Jack Meakin, another quick driver in the number 11 Junior Max race to get underway, and we do get underway. 8 minutes of it to enjoy into Billy. So many cars cramming into that first corner. Fair old shunt between a couple of the drivers there. Consultina kind of effect as a few of them bunch into one another. 39 rejoining the raceway. Will be swamped by everyone right at the back of the pack now. But each of the 16 drivers getting through the opening section of the circuit, pretty much getting away with each of their small bits of contact that inevitably will happen when you try to squeeze 16 karts into one corner. Across the line goes Jack Meakin in the lead with Daniel Beards, who initially looked as though he was second across the line, dropping a couple of positions. And once again, Machi Hamera struggling slightly off the start. finding himself a little bit further down the order, down to 7th now. Tom Adams has a contact warning, but he's up to 2nd place. The contact warning will probably be fairly far towards the rear of his brain at the moment. Joe Linden in 3rd, 4th Daniel Beards out of that previous lap. Let's see how that looks this time. Looks like a fascinating battle going on for 5th at the moment. Really beginning to form a fiery affair there. Let's see as they go across the line who that involves. It is Hamera Rourke and Brandon Klein Nagelvort, the number 31. Fastest lap belongs to Tom Adams. Not that fastest laps matter too much in these early stages. Certainly towards the end of the race is a good indicator of who is on what kind of pace. But look at this, towards the back of the grid, fantastic battles going on elsewhere. Nearly a three-way battle, I think, involving Spencer Shinner and a few of the drivers surrounding him. Jack Meakin leading the way with Tom Adams 0.72 behind. Joe Linden in 3rd, 4th Matthew Higgins. Machi Hamera up to 5th now, and dropping several positions is Daniel Beards from 5th to 9th. So not the best lap for Daniel Beards. I think just got swamped by several drivers. Once one goes through, often a fair few others can follow. Jack Meakin and Tom Adams as the top 2, with Joe Linden in 3rd, Matthew Higgins in 4th. A very impressive front few drivers there. Tin and Rourke, the number 52, one who is towards the business end of the championship table, but not quite as business end as Tom Adams has managed to make it. His championship lead pretty much uncatchable. And the number 2 racing for a bit of further glory here as he hunts down Jack Meakin, the pole sitter and race leader from the off. Looking to try and steal a victory. Adams, who hasn't won yet today. It was a victory for Jordan Morris in emphatic style in Heat 1, and in Heat 2, Tin and Rourke the victor. They both sit though in 10th and 5th, so it certainly does leave an opening for another driver to perhaps come through and take the win. And that is exactly what both Meakin and Adams are hoping to do as things stand. Joe Linden in 3rd in the number 79. He hasn't actually made the top 3 yet in either of the other junior Rotax classes. But Linden could well be hoping for a top 3, maybe even higher position this time. He was actually a little bit quicker than Jack Meakin last time. Then Meakin was overtaken by Adams in that previous lap. Tom Adams now, you would expect to start to open up that gap ever so slightly, squeezing a few hundredths of a second quicker than Jack Meakin around each little sector of the circuit, which will gradually open up that gap a little bit more. But Meakin may yet surprise us. Needs to try and just maintain the pace of the number 2. Adams knows his way around the circuit better than most. Maybe in the junior max, but has had several years of experience around the track now. Just over half the race gone. A couple of contact warnings. Tom Adams and Jordan Morris, 2 very quick drivers, picking up the black and white flag. Yellow flags waving at the hairpin for a driver who was facing the wrong way for a second there. Let's see who that is this time. It's the number 58 or 68. Daniel Beards, that is, facing the wrong way. John Bennett will come across the line in 30. To confirm that, 2 novices, Harry Rowett and Harrison Crook, both promoted up to 14th and 15th place. And towards the top, battle for 3rd looking impressive. Joe Linden, Matthew Higgins and Tin and Rourke all involved. Rourke trying to force himself into the top 3, which would make 3 consecutive top 3 finishes. And his work cut out for this one though. Really only one of those spots is available. Adams and Meakin looking fairly comfortable at the top with just those 2 drivers. And they're comfortably adrift of Joe Linden, 1.67 seconds adrift in fact, with the Linden and Higgins ahead of Rourke. Rourke, to get into the top 3, will have to clear both of those 2 very competitive drivers. I think he may have already managed to clear one of them though, as he got past Matthew Higgins. We'll get confirmation of that at the end of this lap. Out they come of the top end and towards the timing line once again. Who do we have in the lead of this little three-way battle for third? Joe Linden in third, fourth Tin and Rourke indeed. He has managed to get past Matthew Higgins, so battle for 3 consecutive podiums could be on. Effective podiums, of course. Don't celebrate every heat with a formal podium standing. Nonetheless, he's managed to get himself into third place, Tin and Rourke, after just a couple of laps. I said his work would be cut out, and it was, but managed to complete that work very quickly. Tin and Rourke in the number 52. He flies into third place, and after 11 laps, has a 2-second deficit back from Jack Meakin, but could be the only driver in this class to take top three finishes in the 3 heats. Well, 3's going on for Tin and Rourke, but he'll be hoping to do better than that in the final, given his impressive heat so far. Tom Adams may have something to say about that, though, in the number 2, leading the way. Not with the fastest lap, though. That does belong to Rourke, so almost a 2-way battle going into the final, you have to say, discounting second place, who is closing in slightly. Jack Meakin, we could see a really fascinating final with all of the quick drivers now not separated out from the random grid positions. Less than a minute to go of this Junior Max third heat. Next up, of course, are the Formula Blue for their final 8-minute heat. Across the line, Adams and Meakin, though, separated by 0.47 of a second. That gap certainly has been bigger in the past. Said that Adams would be looking to try and etch out a slight lead over Meakin and get that gap to be gradually larger, and is trying to do that, but struggling. Jack Meakin very much keeping the pressure on the number 2 as things stand, which is not an easy thing to achieve. Tin and Rourke in third, though, with Joe Linden and Matthew Higgins in fourth and fifth, sorry. Tin and Rourke, of course, in third, my mistake. Fast lap of a 34.50. We are beginning to see those really quick lap times that I was speaking about before. Anywhere south of 35 seconds is a fairly impressive lap time on the whole, and most of the field has managed to achieve exactly that. Manching O'Meara, the only driver within the top 10 who doesn't have a lap time south of the 35-second border. Across the line goes Tom Adams to win the race ahead of Jack Meakin in the end, with Tin and Rourke in third, Joe Linden and Matthew Higgins in fourth and fifth. Sixth goes to Manching O'Meara with Brandon Klein-Nagelvort seventh. Eighth goes to Alex Hughes, Jez Williams in ninth, and 10th Spencer Shinner. Of course, each of these races important, but the final is where all the drivers' focus will be, especially those who have now raced this one. Tom Adams will be happy with the win, but knows that Tin and Rourke has had some very impressive heats. That final will surely be a spectacle later on in that Junior Max race number 21. Next up, the Formula Blue. Senior Blues line up in their allocated grid positions, ready for race 16 of the day. Getting towards those all-important finals, and at the end of the championship, the drivers won't want to leave anything unsaid out there on the track. Each of those finals should be a fantastic race, and I look forward to each of those after the lunch break, which will come after just a couple more races. This one, Senior Rotax at 177 still to go. Senior Blues are up next, though. On the front row is the number 15 of Stuart Gray alongside Paul Alexander. They both got fairly decent starts, but one of them instantly connected, spins backwards, is lucky not to make any contact with their tyre wall, manages to get going again. A fairly resilient kart, that particular one, running in the Blues. Who is that? The number 9. Excuse me, number 9 is Robin Stoddart Stones, who was right at the front, cut across another driver and ended up facing the wrong way. It could have been a lot worse. Able to get away with that one somewhat. Stuart Gray leading from David Watts, though. Top 2 already beginning to form a little bit of a gap back to third place Paul Alexander. Heading into the hairpin then, the front runners. Having a look at the inside is David Watts on the race leader, Stuart Gray. And does manage to claim the race lead now. David Watts in the lead for the first time. Stuart Gray. Oh, and there's a bit of an incident. Number 17 facing the wrong way. Had a few spinners over the course of today. You expect in these drier conditions for the drivers to spin a bit less, but certainly in the damp conditions earlier, because even though technically wet, we knew that it wasn't going to stay wet for long, and the rain had already subsided by the time the racing had began. Another spinner there on the entrance to the S's this time, but luckily nothing comes of it. Everyone was alert enough to avoid that particular incident. David Waldron picks up a contact warning. Got to be slightly cautious that he doesn't get too argy-bargy for the remainder of this race. David Watts leading the way ahead of Stuart Gray. Who have we had so far win? It has been Waldron and Pearson who have won so far. That's Waldron Taylor edition. David Waldron is a fairway further back and certainly hasn't had a lot of fortune over the course of the day so far, as opposed to Taylor Waldron, who is currently sitting in 4th place. It wasn't down to luck though, that victory earlier. There was a lot of very capable driving in the hands of Taylor Waldron, which led to that win in Heat 2. Then Pearson was victorious in Heat 1 in that 0-plated kart. He's going to be sitting in 5th, so the 2 winners of the first 2 heats are 4th and 5th at the moment. Could really enable any of the drivers in the current top 3 to claim their first victories of the day. And Gray, Mortimer and Watts all finish in the top few positions, so David Watts looking to follow up his 2nd place in Heat 2 with a win, which would certainly go a long way into assisting a decent grid position for the final later on. He'll certainly be in the top 2 rows if he were to finish there, I would have thought. Stuart Gray as well has been a constant presence over the course of the day, certainly in Heat 1 and definitely in this one as well. Heat 2 faded away slightly more. Approaching halfway through this Formula Blue race. And David Watts with a comfortable margin at the moment back to Stuart Gray. Seems to be driving very well, David Watts, and at the moment no one's pace can match his. A little bit sideways there by Michael Bell heading into the horseshoe, but is ahead of Stuart Gray, who's struggling a little bit more for pace now. Michael Bell could be on course for 2nd place here, as he can start to really reel in the race leader.